Hello, everyone. We're going to give folks just another 30 seconds to sign in, and then we will dive into the presentation here in just less than a minute. All right, we're going to go ahead and dive in to the webinar for today, which is about a request for information that was sent out representing VCUDA and some attempt to collect information about some ways that we might partner with respondents of this RFI to provide some financial support related to some state funding. So I am T. Thomas. I am CEO of Quantified Ventures. We are supporting VCUDA through this RFI process. So I will go ahead, Sean, and advance to the next slide. I'm going to give the overall agenda, and then I'll do a little bit of housekeeping, and then turn it over to Ellie DeVilliers from Maple Broadband to help us kind of more broadly set the stage of what we're here to talk about. So as I said, we'll welcome Ellie. We will walk through the overview of the RFI. We'll talk about timing, goals, any questions that we might have anticipated. And then we'll offer a few minutes for you all to ask us any questions that you might have. And then we will wrap in the following 5 minutes. In the case that we either run out of time for questions or don't have enough questions, we will kind of adjust accordingly and give any of those that are kind of virtually in attendance today or are not able to attend and can watch the webinar an opportunity to submit questions to us as well, and we'll tell you how to do that. So housekeeping goals as you go. I think everyone's mic is automatically muted. Please put questions in the chat. It's okay to put them in the chat in real time. You should also know that this is being recorded because we have many folks that were not able to attend live, and we want everyone to have access to the same information. So I think other than that, I think we are ready to turn this over to Ellie.
Okay, thank you, T. Thank you for that intro. So my name is Ellie DeVilliers. I am the Executive Director of Maple Broadband, which is one of the communications union districts in Vermont, and I'm also the chair of the Vermont CUD Association, VCUDA, which has 8 of the CUDs in Vermont as members. So just by way of context here, Vermont Communications Union districts we're municipal broadband districts, public utility districts, and we have received grant funding from the state of Vermont under the ARPA program to be building out. And by the nature of the rules of this grant program, as well as the goals of the state of Vermont, we've been building out in the most unserved, underserved rural areas. And so one of the reasons that we're issuing this RFI is that as the ARPA funding is, as we're finishing the builds that have been funded with ARPA, and obviously we're looking forward to the BEAD program. And as you can all appreciate, there's a certain amount of uncertainty around the BEAD program, both in terms of whether we'll be successful as bidders and also in terms of the potential program changes to the BEAD program itself. But even aside from that, there are other things that we want to be doing within our districts that aren't eligible for grant funding under either program. And different CUDs are at different levels of build out. But the main point I want to make is that because of the nature of where we've started and where we've built, we are building the most difficult terrain from an economic perspective, because there's reasons that the rural areas of Vermont, like other states, have not had good broadband service historically, which is simply because the costs are high and there's not very many people. And so the business case is challenging. And so one of the things that we're looking at in general is as we start to get to the point of grant funding ending and needing to take on debt, it is extremely important to us that the debt be something that the interest rates on the debt be low enough that we can actually support what we're trying to do and still be financially sustainable. So I think I don't want to go over anything which T's going to be covering in terms of the goals of the RFI, but I wanted to offer this as context for who we are and what we are, to introduce what we are doing now with this RFI. So T, over to you.
All right, thanks, Ellie. Well, with that, we are going to launch right into the program overview, a little bit of the why. So we can go ahead and advance to the next slide. Largely just sort of repeating a little bit what we just heard from Ellie. The mission of this RFI and everything that we are exploring is all in service of the mission of reinforcing digital equity and the infrastructure goals that are at the heart of the VCUDA missions, serving kind of address any of the funds that we have available. This RFI is largely just really trying to set expectations. This is really a discovery process and not a procurement one. We can go on to the next one. Can you guys hear me okay?
Your audio did cut out for me for a couple of seconds there. I'm not sure if others also experienced that.
Yeah, it cut out on my end too.
Okay. Again, just to repeat, we are exploring this flexible loan program with 8 million of ARPA seed capital, and then from there, VCUDA may elect to pursue an RFP based on the RFI responses. And really just want to reiterate to those on this call or viewing the recording later that this is really a discovery process and collecting information, and we are not yet at a procurement stage. So you can go ahead and advance. So who would be taking advantage of this revolving fund? The eligible borrowers would be primarily the Vermont CUDs and potentially other nonprofit or mission-aligned broadband partners. And again, anyone that would potentially be in that category must absolutely align with the state's broadband goals. Vermont is seeking to have universal services with a heavy emphasis on affordability for all. So it's not focused just on deployment. We want to do it well and affordably. So we can go ahead to the next one. So initial loan types and terms, as you all might be able to tell from the RFI and from this list, again, there's a lot that we are interested in exploring, and we want to provide we want to get as much information as possible about the number of ways that VCUDA could potentially deploy this capital in the most innovative way. So exploring construction loans. This could allow CUDs to move more quickly on infrastructure builds before they've got permanent financing in place. Understanding how we might use bridge loans. That could be a really critical tool to help bridge some of the timing gaps of grant disbursements. Working capital loans. This keeps operations going, allows us to be nimble as we're responding to demands or emergencies in the future. And then equipment and infrastructure loans really are working on providing continuity and reducing any type of service disruption. So very much interested in information that we can receive from those responding to the RFI about how we might tap into markets for those purposes. And then on the loan terms, really just exploring major emphasis on flexibility, easy to access. How do we look at deferred or revenue-based repayment? Just recognizing, again, to reiterate, in Ellie's intro, all of these CUDs are in very different places. And so being able to have a true kind of partner that can help us shape the financing to meet the CUDs where they are, is something that we are very interested in learning more about. And go to the next slide. Which gets us to the role of the program partner. So we are, again, everyone is moving in a state of some uncertainty right now about federal funding. Part of the reason that we are launching this RFI right now is so that we can be as well informed as possible once the federal funding landscape hopefully becomes a little clearer. So we do really look to structure and potentially launch a fund within even 90 days of this award. So that's something that's important to us, is that sort of nimble capability, looking for some capability to move quickly on that. Again, just to reiterate, we're trying to maximize this kind of one-time money and be the best stewards of it that we can be. So the ability to think through a strategy of raising additional capital, we want to multiply that $8 million. So thinking through private, philanthropic, public leverage, where does that come in, and how do we best make sure that we are finding that leverage opportunity? We want to know about that, and that's something that we really are seeking in a partner. Developing application and reporting processes, again, you'll have the partner would have a pretty well-known pool, or easy to know pool, or knowable pool of applicants, just given the number of CUDs that would be potentially tapping into these funds. But again, we want this to be money that is easily accessible, and something, again, that has limited barriers to the CUDs being able to access this money when they need it and how they need it. Underwriting and manage loan disbursement. This is really sort of the functional side of managing a revolving loan fund. This is really just what's the long-term sustainability, what's the experience of our partner in being able to deliver that. And I think there's a certain amount of flexibility and support that we're looking for in that underwriting partnership. And then we have this very broad additional role, which is really engaging with our CUDs and partners. The fund should be responsive to the actual needs of the CUDs on the ground, which are as different as the CUDs themselves. And so we want to cast the broadest net. And again, just to reiterate the goal of looking for the partner in this, rather than just sort of service provider. I think this is a little level deeper that we're seeking out here. All right, go ahead to the next one. Again, just to, this is all in the RFI, but the requested information, what we are asking back from you all is, again, the fundraising strategy, capital leveraging. We want to know that our partners is as committed and thinking as strategically as we are about how to expand the pot of one-time funding that we have. That goes right to the next one. What is your experience with philanthropic fundraising and helping us understand your theory around, or the respondents' theory around, raising outside capital, and blending that together with the seed capital that we're starting with. I think we gave a few scenarios, but thinking through capital estimates in a few different scenarios, helping us to understand a little bit of cost and how scalable this model is, what additional investment does to the overall ability to leverage this. And then the last piece is really the need of the respondents and how we should think about incorporating administration and overall effective interest rates we're really looking for transparency here and really feeding information back to VCUDA on assessing the real cost and affordability, both to the CUDs and then ultimately down to the communities that they are serving. So really looking for information about sort of what it would cost to provide that service back. So with that, I'll kind of get into high level timeline and submission details. So everyone knows that we, or at least if you're here, are aware that we launched this request for information on April 8th. We are here at April 17th. We will immediately following this, we will within 24 hours put this up on that website that's below. This same website is in the RFI that brought you all here, but we will put that the recording up, and then again we will create a sort of a question and answer based on what we hear today and what we hear over the next day or so for follow-up. But again, not a procurement stage, really just discovery and collecting information. But ultimately, by the end of the month, we really want to be able to hand over good information to VCUDA. And then from there, again, looking out over the next couple of months of where the federal landscape sits and what are the implications at the VCUDA level. From there, VCUDA will make a decision of kind of next steps on whether they move forward into a procurement process or not. So I think that is the formal part of the presentation. I think we can go off of screen share if there are any questions that have been received. I haven't seen any in the chat, but happy to give a couple of minutes for that. Okay. I don't know what the legally required amount of silence is, but if we don't see any hand raises, I will propose that we move to close the webinar, and we will again send you all out information. You'll have time to take this information back, and we open the opportunity for additional questions. We have an email address that you'll see that anyone can send questions afterwards. So going once. Dan.
I put a question in the chat. I was just wondering if you have a target interest rate that you want the capital deployed at. You mentioned obviously the scale challenges of operating in these rural areas and wanting lower cost capital. Do you have a range you're looking for, or just some more insight there, I guess?
I don't. Ellie, curious if you have one. I would be hesitant to give one out, but maybe you do.
Yeah, not as such. I think one of the points of the RFI is to understand what sort of rates might be achievable. And so, I mean, the general answer is the lower the better, but we're not actually sure what can be achieved in today's market. So helping us understand what that realistically is going to inform whether and how we move forward.
And is there a sense on what the typical project size might be, like how big an individual loan might be on this?
That's a good question. I think it would probably vary from perhaps a couple of million to tens of millions. That's fairly wide range, but as mentioned earlier, there's CUDs come in different sizes and are at different stages. I mean, ranging from like my CUD has 20 member towns, and then NEKCP has 73. So the quantum of our lending would be significantly lower.
And also just to point out that not only is there a range of loan sizes, but again, given the idea that there will be a variety of probably loan products, from just bridging federal money versus all the way up to construction funding and everywhere in between. That's going to have significant impact. And I think we're trying to understand, what the best uses of the funds are. And again, some of that's dictated by federal landscape as well. I don't know if I'm missing anything, Ellie.
I think that does make sense. I mean, we did cover some of the different scenarios that we might be hitting, and some of them are things like mainland construction or bridging federal or other loans, working capital. Some of them might be building out areas that are not supported with the grant, not allowed to be built with grant funding in order to strengthen business cases. And then some of it might also be as we have grant money which can be used, for example, to cover mainline or drops, but we might want to be having the drops and the customer connections paid for with loan funding in order to be able to better maximize the mainline construction that the grants do pay for. So there's a lot of different kinds of things depending on where the CUD is in terms of its maturity and how much grant funding it's received and been able to build to date.
Thanks, Dan.
Yes, it's great to have some questions, not just silence.
Yeah, I was gonna say we planted Dan in the audience for those questions. Thanks, Dan. If there are no other questions, we'll give a second motion to probably thank everyone for taking a couple of minutes to attend in person, or virtually in person and live stream. And then for those that were unable to attend, we'll thank them for watching this later. So thanks everyone for your time. Ellie, thank you so much for your time as well. And we are excited about next steps on this. So thank you.
Yes, thank you all for coming, and thank you for your interest in this.